Was I wrong for what I did, for putting my foot down after years of being pushed aside, after watching my parents dismantle our family legacy and hand it over, piece by agonizing piece, to my brother? You tell me, imagine standing there, watching your childhood home, the place where every memory, every scraped knee, every late night's secret was forged, get sold out from under you. Not because they needed the money, not because they were struggling, but because they decided one child, my younger brother, deserved it all. And then, after that monumental betrayal, they tried to invade my home, the sanctuary I had built for myself, demanding access, demanding control, just like they always had. Would you have let them? Would you have sacrificed your peace, your autonomy, for people who so carelessly sacrificed yours? Let me take you back to where this all began, to a time when I still believed in the myth of a fair and loving family. I'm the older sibling by about 5 years. My brother, Mark, has always been the golden child. Not in a malicious way, necessarily, but in that way where everything he did was celebrated, every mistake excused, every whim indulged. I was always the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who achieved things through sheer effort rather than natural charm. I learned early on that if I wanted anything, I had to earn it myself. Scholarships, my first car, even the down payment on my first small apartment, it all came from my own blood, sweat, and tears. My parents, bless their hearts, were always so proud of my independence. It felt less like pride and more like a convenient excuse to not have to lift a finger for me. Mark, on the other hand, coasted. He bounced between jobs, dabbled in various entrepreneurial ventures that never quite took off, and always seemed to find himself in a financial bind. And every single time, without fail, my parents swooped in. They paid his rent, bailed him out of debt, bought him a new car when his old one just wasn't working out. I remember one Christmas, I got a new sweater, a nice one, but still, a sweater. Mark got a brand new high-end gaming PC. I smiled, I thanked them, I told myself it didn't matter, but a little piece of me chipped away each time. These were small things, manageable slights in the grand scheme of things, but they built up, brick by invisible brick, creating a wall between me and any genuine expectation of equal treatment. Our family home was a beautiful old Victorian. It had character, history, and a sprawling garden that my mother cherished. My father had inherited it from his side of the family, and it had always been understood, at least by me, that it was a legacy that would somehow be passed down, or at least its value shared. Between us, it was a big house, far too big for my parents once Mark and I had moved out, but they loved it, or so I thought. Then came the phone call about 2 years ago. My mother, in her usual roundabout way, informed me that they were selling the house. "It's just too much for us now, dear," she chirped, the upkeep, the stairs. I nodded, understanding, though a pang of sadness went through me. I asked what their plans were, thinking perhaps they'd downsize to a nice condo, maybe travel a bit. Her next words hit me like a physical blow. "Oh, we've decided to give all the proceeds to Mark. He needs a fresh start, you see. This will help him buy a house and finally settle down." Silence. I remember the silence on my end of the line, so profound it was almost deafening. My brain struggled to process it. All the proceeds, $650, 0, as I later found out, the entirety of their largest asset, gone to Mark. Not a penny, not a word, not even a consultation with me. I asked, my voice barely a whisper, "What about me, Mom? What about fairness?" Her tone hardened then, a familiar edge creeping in. "You're doing so well, darling. You don't need it. Mark needs it more. And besides, We've given you so much love and support over the years. Love and support, yes, but not financial support. Not the kind that changes the trajectory of a life. Not the kind that builds security. I ended the call shortly after, my heart aching with a mixture of anger, hurt, and profound disbelief. I cried that night for the house, for the future I'd envisioned, and for the naive belief I'd held that my parents loved us equally. Mark bought a very nice house, a sprawling suburban place with a 2-car garage, far nicer than anything I could afford, even with my stable, well-paying job. He thanked me awkwardly, saying he really appreciated Mom and Dad's help. He never acknowledged the inherent unfairness, never offered to share, never even seemed to consider how it might feel for me. My parents moved into a much smaller, but still comfortable, home that they had apparently bought with a separate, smaller fund they'd kept aside. They were still financially comfortable, by no means destitute, just less wealthy, by exactly $650,000. And that $650,000 was now firmly in Mark's bank account, or rather, his mortgage. I saw less of them after that, mostly because I needed space, needed to process this seismic shift in our family dynamic. I kept my distance, polite but reserved, always feeling the weight of that unspoken injustice between us. Life, as it tends to do, moved on. I focused on my career, on my own home, the one I had scrimped and saved for, the one I had poured my heart and soul into renovating. It was smaller than the Victorian, certainly, but it was mine. Every nail, every paint stroke, every piece of furniture represented my hard work and independence. It was my sanctuary, my safe haven. I found a wonderful partner, Alex, who understood me, who saw the subtle hurts and championed my self-reliance. We were planning our future, building our own life, far away from the shadow of my parents' skewed affections. Then, about 6 months ago, the first hint of trouble started brewing. My mother began complaining about their new, smaller house. "It's just not enough space, dear." She'd lament on the phone, "We can't have all our things here. Your father's golf clubs, my sewing room. It's all so cramped." I listened, offered non-committal, S and O really. S, but inside, a knot of dread began to form. I knew where this was going. They started hinting, then outright asking, about storing some of their excess belongings in my garage, then my spare room. I politely declined, explaining that I valued my space, that Alex and I had our own plans for those areas. They didn't take it well. There were sighs, thinly veiled accusations of being unhelpful and selfish. The situation escalated 2 weeks ago. My parents called me, not asking, but informing me that they needed to move in with me for a few months, just until we find a bigger place. "Dear," my mother said, her voice dripping with an expectation that brooked no argument, "the market is so difficult, and we just can't stand this small house any longer. Mark's place is too far out of the way for your father's commute, and besides, he has his own family to think about." My blood ran cold. Move into my home, the home they had never contributed a single cent to, the home they clearly thought of as an overflow storage unit for their problems. The audacity, the sheer nerve, after everything. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have opened your doors to them, knowing what they had done? Knowing the precedent it would set, would you have swallowed your pride and your hurt for the sake of family? Or would you have finally stood your ground? I took a deep breath. Alex was beside me, his hand a comforting weight on my arm. He had witnessed years of this, had seen the hurt in my eyes, had quietly supported me as I navigated my complex family. "No," I said, my voice clear and steady, surprising even myself. "No, you can't move in here." My mother's gasp was audible. "What do you mean, no?" she demanded, her voice rising. "We're your parents. We need help. You chose to sell your house." I reminded her, keeping my voice even, "and you chose to give all that money to Mark. You made your choices, and those choices have consequences. My home is not a fallback option for your poor planning or your preferential treatment of my brother. This is my space, my sanctuary, and I'm not giving it up." My father then chimed in, his tone sharp. "You're being ungrateful. We raised you. We gave you everything. Everything except equity, except fairness, except the acknowledgement that I was a separate, deserving individual. You gave me a lot of things," I countered, "but you also taught me to stand on my own 2 feet, to work for what I want, because you certainly weren't going to hand it to me. And that's exactly what I'm doing now." The conversation dissolved into shouting, accusations, and tears, mostly my mother's. They called me selfish, cold-hearted, a terrible daughter. They threatened to cut me out of their lives completely, as if they hadn't already done that in a far more substantial way. I told them that was their choice, just as this was mine. I hung up. Aftermath has been, predictably, messy. Mark called, bewildered and annoyed, asking why I was making things difficult. I explained, calmly, about the $650 0 about the years of unequal treatment, about my need for boundaries. He mumbled something about Mom and Dad's money, their choice, and then went silent. He didn't offer to house them, not really. My parents have since tried a few more times, through texts and voicemails, to guilt trip me, to manipulate me, but I haven't caved. I've muted their calls, blocked their texts for a few days at a time just to get some peace. It's been incredibly painful, like ripping off a deeply embedded bandage, but also incredibly liberating. I've finally drawn a line in the sand, a boundary that should have been there years ago. I haven't spoken to them in a week, and honestly, the silence, while heavy, is also strangely peaceful. I don't know what their next move will be, or if they'll ever truly understand the depth of their actions and the damage they caused, but I do know this: my home is safe, my peace is intact, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm finally choosing myself. This whole mess has taught me a profound lesson about self, worth, and the importance of boundaries, even with family. Sometimes, the hardest thing to do is to protect yourself from the very people who are supposed to protect you. Like this video if you were on my side, if you think I did the right thing in standing up for myself. Subscribe for more stories like this, where people finally find their voice and reclaim their power, and please, share your final thoughts on this whole situation in the comments section below. What would you have done? Was I too harsh, or was it long overdue? I'll see you all in the next story.